When Michael saw her again, it wasn't dramatic. There was no rain, no slow motion, no music swelling in the background. It was at a quiet charity fundraiser in town, where people wore polite smiles and talked about investments and community projects. He had only returned home for a short visit after years of building his career in the city. And then he heard her voice, confident, familiar. Eleanor. She stood near the gallery wall, speaking with quiet authority about the education initiative she had founded. She wasn't the girl he used to race bicycles with anymore. She was composed, grounded. Beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with presence. They hadn't spoken properly in almost a decade. Yet when her eyes met his across the room, the years dissolved in seconds. "Michael," she said, her lips curving into a knowing smile, "still organizing the world." He replied, "And you're still pretending you don't care about it," she answered. "Some things never change." They had grown up inseparable, neighbors, study partners, late-night dreamers who would lie on the roof of his parents' house, mapping out futures. He had always admired her mind, her discipline, the way she believed in building something meaningful. But when they were young, love felt a heavier word. Life was waiting. Ambition was louder than emotion. So he left for the capital to work in finance. She stayed, earned her degree, and built something of her own. A foundation supporting young girls' education. Phone calls faded, messages became birthday greetings, and then silence, until now, their reconnection was unforced. Coffee turned into long dinners. Dinners turned into walks through the old parts of town. There was no rush, no teenage intensity. Just depth. He began noticing the way she listened. Truly listened before speaking, the patience in her decisions, the resilience in her stories about setbacks and rebuilding. She noticed his steadiness, the humility success had carved into him, the quiet loneliness he carried behind confident conversation. One evening, they found themselves sitting at a small restaurant overlooking the river. The lights reflected softly on the water. "You left because you needed to," she said gently. "I thought I did," he admitted. "I was afraid staying would mean settling. And now," he looked at her, really looked at her, "now I realize I wasn't afraid of settling. I was afraid of wanting something that mattered more than ambition." She didn't interrupt. "I think I've always loved you," he said quietly. "I just didn't have the maturity to recognize it." The confession wasn't impulsive. It was steady, certain. Eleanor's expression softened, but she didn't look surprised. "Michael," she said, "love isn't something that appears suddenly. Sometimes it grows quietly beside you while you're busy becoming who you are." He reached across the table, not urgently but intentionally. "I don't want nostalgia," he said. "I don't want a second chance based on history. I want to choose you now, as the woman you are." Silence settled between them. But it wasn't uncomfortable, it was thoughtful. "You're not the boy who left," she said. "And you're not the girl who waited," he replied. A faint smile touched her lips. "Good," she said, "because I don't need to be saved. I need to be met." He nodded. "Then meet me here." It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't dramatic. It was to people who had grown separately and discovered they still fit. When she placed her hand in his, it wasn't about childhood memories. It was about intention, about choosing each other not because of who they were, but because of who they had become. And for the first time in his life, Michael felt something more powerful than ambition. He felt certain.